Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and this is a mini series where I explain how I got myself into med school in just under 6 months. So this is for those of you who have a tough exam coming close by, and if you have limited time to study all your material and if you're like totally freaking out, this series is for you. So in this series, I'll be explaining how exactly I did this, and in this video specifically, I will be getting down into the crazy timetable that actually got me through this. So I think most of this is contributed to by my timetable itself. And before I explain to you about this timetable, I have to throw in this small disclaimer. Now, once you see the actual timetable, you will realize why I call this crazy. Because for some people, this might seem totally impractical, but this is what actually worked for me. And if you stay disciplined and dedicated, it is possible. Again, as for the disclaimer, I do not recommend you doing this for a long span of time. My recommendation is a maximum of 6 months. Anytime beyond that, I don't think this timetable is sustainable for you. And if you keep on doing this for a long period of time, it's likely that you will end burnt out.
I'm exhausted.
So you don't want to burn yourself out. So don't do this if you are in the very beginning of your academic year, or if you have an exam that is like any time more than 6 to 8 months in front of you. You don't want to do this. But there are still elements of this that you can use even if you don't have an exam coming up close by. But if you do have an exam coming close by and you're really tight, this is totally for you. Now, with that disclaimer aside, we will get into this timetable. Now, the first thing about this timetable is, number one, we have to set up a few rules. Now, the first rule is dedicating some time for your sleep. Sleep is important. I don't have to explain that to you because you can't expect your brain to keep on storing all the material that you put in without giving your brain cells any rest. So I would recommend any time from 6 to 8 hours of sleep. Personally, when I was doing my exams, I stuck to 6 hours of sleep because I couldn't afford to give any more hours to sleep, as well as I couldn't cut down my sleep any further. So 6 hours is the minimum, and you can pick any amount of hours that is feasible for you. And then once you have your hours for sleep, the next rule is also about sleep. You just have to chunk that lot for sleep in one slot, meaning you can't break down your 6 hours as, let's say, 4 hours in the night and then 2 hours of a nap in the afternoon. It doesn't work that way. Your 6 hours of sleep should be in one good stretch, and you can change the time depending on whether you're a night person or a morning person. So getting into this timetable, I'm actually a morning person, so I started my sleeping slot from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. So when we move this 6 hours of sleep aside, we are left out with 18 hours. Now, for the rest of the day, these entire 18 remaining hours are considered as study time. Now, don't freak out. I know what you're thinking. Okay, so 18 hours of studying, that is crazy. Where is the time to sleep, to shower, and to just breathe? Don't worry, I'll get to that. But for now, this entire 18 hours is study time, and this is used as one big Pomodoro slot. So what we do is we study each hour. We have a designated subject to study for that hour. And what we do is we study for 50 to 55 minutes for that hour slot. And then we would take a little break for about 10 to 5 minutes and then return to study for the next slot. So each hour would be a Pomodoro session where you would study for 50 to 55 minutes and then take a break for 5 to 10 minutes.
So this is the basic structure of the timetable. I've made the timetable for all 7 days of the week, and I've also included all the remaining hours, which is 18 hours, and each hour is mentioned in the timetable individually slotted. So it's not like slots of 2 hours, it's slots of 1 hour. We're going to slot down periods of time that you have little control over, or time periods that you don't really get to study the way you want to. For example, let's say that you have, now these could be like classes or any other activities that you go for. So just for an example, I'm going to take that we have a chemistry class from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Chemistry on Monday. Okay. And then let's say Wednesday evening, we have physics. This is afternoon, never mind. So you get the idea. You just block out the time that you have to go for classes. Or let's say you have to practice a paper. So let's say that you're going to do a practice paper on Saturday. So we'll say we're going to put a physics paper session on Saturday, which will be from 6 a.m. Let's say you're doing this for 3 hours. It's a 3-hour paper, so you're going to finish at 9 a.m. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fill in all the blanks in this timetable while rotating subjects. So the reason I'm going to rotate subjects is because I get bored. So what I do is I'm going to start with biology here, and then so I might sit for a study session of biology for an hour. And then if I continue biology the next hour, I'm going to get bored and my concentration is going to go down. So I'm going to sort of mix things up here. And I'm going to put the next hour for physics and then do some physics. So the last hour of the day, I would usually leave for revision of new points or new subject matter that I learned within that day. So this is the basic structure. And this is one day. I usually like to highlight them and I would give a color coding. And yeah, so I would do this for every single day of the week. And I will show you the completed timetable. So I don't have the original that I used, but what I've drawn here is very close. It is very similar, so we can take this as an example. And as you can see, all the 18 hours I have left are slotted into this. So you might think, how do you have time to eat, to shower, and to just breathe? So what I would do is my 7 a.m. study slot, I would study from 7 a.m. to 7:45 a.m. and have a 15-minute break. So that 15-minute break from 7:45 to 8 is my breakfast time. If lunchtime for you is, let's say 1 p.m., then you can study the noon slot. So you can sit down to study one subject at noon, study up to like 12:45, and then you have 15 minutes until 1 p.m. to have lunch. Keep in mind that don't make these break times long enough for you to get distracted.
So now guys, now that we have the timetable down, I know you might think that this is extreme. I told you that this is a bit extreme in the beginning, in the disclaimer. So the next question is, how do we stick to this? So in the upcoming videos, I will explain to you exactly how I stuck to this timetable. I will talk about the discipline and how I sort of developed the discipline to actually stick to this crazy timetable, and also how I kept my motivation on and how I kept going without burning myself out while sticking to this crazy timetable. Because this is actually what made it feasible for me to study everything that I had learned throughout the span of 3 years in just under 6 months. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found this very useful. Also, if you have any questions or queries regarding the timetable or any time management or motivation problems, just let me know in the comments below and I will see if I can answer your questions as well. And also, please do feel free to like and subscribe. And that's a wrap on this video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.